What do you want out of your music career? Do you find yourself dreaming about things you don't have and wonder if you'll ever get them? Do you have a plan for getting what you want out of music? That's what we're going to be looking at in this episode of the New Music Industry Podcast.
You're listening to the New Music Industry with David Andrew Weeb.
Joining us today is lifelong vocalist and creator of the Gold Within program, Amos Bracewell.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. I'm excited to be here, man.
Yeah. I'm excited to have you on too. And we've been teasing this for, about a week and a half now. And last week we couldn't due to some technical difficulties, but here we are. So let's get into that conversation about. I think what I wanted to start off with was just, what is your trajectory? What is your life as a singer been like? What are some of the challenges you experienced, and what are some of the great things you've been able to do?
The biggest challenges have had nothing to do with singing, but they showed up in singing. So the biggest challenges were overcoming all the things I carried forward from childhood that were actually all the limiting mindsets, the things I became, was scared of doing and stepping out and putting myself out there. So they translated into vocal performances and sometimes chickening out of opportunities, but they didn't have anything to do with singing, Andrew. They expressed themselves through singing. It's been a lot of mindset stuff.
Yeah. I relate to that a lot. And the reason I say that is because I used to play basketball in junior high. And for the first time I started playing on teams. I was quite naturally talented at it in junior high or in elementary school. Started playing in teams in junior high in Canada. Yeah. And I did not perform at even half of what I was capable at, just because of nerves and mindset and exactly what you're describing, just not being in the right space mentally to be able to perform at my best. So I relate to that a lot.
Yeah. It's amazing how mindset bleeds into everything. And our biggest struggles, it expresses itself through a certain conduit, but in essence, in reality, has nothing to do with that, with basketball or with singing. It's to do with the mindsets we have which surround that.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to discover more about some of the things you've been able to accomplish by overcoming some of those mindset challenges. We're going to dive deeper into that for sure. I think the first thing is, what is the Gold Within program? I've teased that a little bit for the viewers already. Yeah. I'm sure they're curious to find out by now what that is.
So it's a program that reconnects you back with what's already inside you, and it helps align you with that, and then it gives you a systematic approach, like a runway from which you can. I initially used it to achieve what I wanted to achieve initially in music, and then I went on because I had other endeavors I wanted to do to apply it to business, to my physicality, to mentally, spiritually. So it's a framework structure that you just plug in place. So whatever it is you want to achieve, you plug that in, use this system for that. Doesn't matter what the area of life is. And then it gives you a very systemized approach so you can realize and get rid of the roadblocks that have been holding you back. And then very quickly, within a month, you just see very fast results from the first month.
It's all very relatable because I've wanted to experience great results in each of those areas at different points in my life, whether it was music or business or fitness wise. And sure, a lot of people listening to want to experience those kinds of benefits and results as well. So how does the Goal Within program help people create those kinds of habits or structures or just results?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you want to get into where it all started, but I'll just touch on that for a second. And if you want to go deeper, we can with, when my mom passed away and my good buddy passed away, we can get into that. But basically how it does it is it helps facilitate the connection, your connection back with what's always already been inside you. It's already inside you. It's always been inside you, but life happens to us. And if most people find that the older they get, stuff happens and we end up getting these layers on top of us that we were not meant to carry. And so these layers and these filters end up muting our light in life, and dimming us, and sometimes even disconnecting us from why we're even here. I know a lot of artists who are, let's say, watching this, entrepreneurial artists, they probably know what they want to do, or to some extent, I would guess. And so for me, what happened was, what it allowed me to do is reconnect with that and wade through and then just discard all the reasons why I was not doing what I knew I should have been doing, or I knew I wanted to be doing. And so it allows you to reconnect with that. And then it gives you, I call it a runway, because it's a very systemized approach. I like systems. Systems allow for duplication. They allow for things to quickly happen. And even though I'm an artist, I love being creative and being free. I also understand the discipline, the benefit of discipline, structure, and systems. So I live in both worlds. And that's what the Go Within allowed me to do. When I created it, I didn't create it for someone else. I just created it because one of my best buddies and my mom died within 30 days of each other in 2017, just over 4 years ago. My world was absolutely devastated. And I'd already been an entrepreneur. I don't know if you want me to go here or not, Andrew, but
yeah, please do.
Yeah, I'd already been an entrepreneur. I already proved to myself in the world that I was not the world's best employee. My type of personality is best suited just running my own gig, probably like a lot of artists. I could do jobs if I had to, but my heart was an entrepreneur. So I tried business after business. I didn't realize there was things that were tripping me up in these businesses. So I didn't have any real successes. I'm now 45. For myself at 41. And it was in that place of trauma where I had suffered multiple losses of businesses. I'd lost a ton of money. I had a daughter who's now almost 20. At the time, she was whatever. She's 15, almost 16 at the time. My mom passes away. My good buddy died and followed me up. And I was like, if I don't do something to figure out how to rise, I'm screwed. Because they were my biggest, I guess my turn to go. They were my biggest advocates. He was like an older brother. He was actually my youth pastor growing up. And my mom and I always had a special connection, even though we sometimes fought, because sometimes you fight with the people that you're closest with the most, as we all, probably understand that. And so that just wiped me out. And I had already suffered a bunch of losses. There's trauma with my relationship with my daughter, because there was things I had failed as a parent, of course, because who's perfect. And so I was in the process of realizing.
You were talking a little bit about your challenges and struggles, and I think that's very relatable. In your observation, is there something about those struggles and challenges that makes a person want to rise up and do things and approach things differently?
Well, you kind of get to the point where life's either working or it's not, right?
Yeah.
My life wasn't working. So I had a list of reasons why it wasn't working. The evidence kept piling up. Business after business, something was broken or something. And I'm not trying to shame myself. There was just something I wasn't doing that I need to do that I just either didn't know or I knew, but I wasn't willing to do. And that's really what it comes down to is, trauma happens to everybody. For me, it was the loss of the business, stuff with my daughter, and then my mom and my good buddy dying. Like, you're going to face trauma. Everyone's going to face trauma. And then when those catalyst moments happen, they either send us further down, because I saw this myself. Sometimes I faced trauma and it sent me further down playing the denial blame game. And sometimes legitimate stuff has happened to us, but it's always a choice if we're going to stay there. And if a catalyst happens and it's that time where you're like, you know what, I'm choosing differently this time. That's what makes any new possibility possible. It's when we're willing to try something we haven't tried before. Like, what's that? Old doors. What is it? Old doors or old ways don't turn over. Whatever that saying is, you can't keep opening the same doors and expecting different results.
Yeah. I relate to that a lot because I've probably started, if I was to include all my niche websites, I probably started over a dozen businesses by now, most of which were not a complete total runaway success. So I think that's something that a lot of people listening can relate to as well, whether they've started music projects or whatever it is, they just haven't found traction with anything they're doing, which kind of leads nicely into this question. Who is the Goal Within program for?
Well, it's for anybody who feels stuck.
Yeah.
I just opened it up for beta testing. So I got a group of people going through, and actually, Andrew, you're in the program yourself. So
yeah,
you could tell people obviously about what it's like for you. I'd love to, but it's, if you're feeling stuck, then when you feel stuck and you're out of options in terms of, you're like, I've tried everything there is. I don't know why I'm not going forward. I don't know why life isn't more than it is right now. I got dreams and I got hopes. And that's where I came to, right? When I went through that, where I was at that place where I did this, I just created for myself. I moved out to Calgary, Alberta. I moved 500 miles away after the funerals. And I was like, I got to start my life over. I got to do something different. And so that's the catalyst it was for me. But so the program, I actually just released it in beta testing, and there's a small group of people that are in it now that are just helping make sure everything's working correctly before I actually start marketing it out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate you having me on. Anyone that feels stuck, anyone that feels they know that they're supposed to be doing more, but they don't know how to find that. This stuff, the reason I'll tell you this, the reason why that's the thing that sparked the idea for the creation of this program was I attended a seminar. I attended a self-improvement seminar in early part of 2017. And during that seminar, they did vision boarding. And I've always been a fan of vision boarding, but it never worked for me. I shouldn't say that. I'm driving the car that was on my vision board. So maybe it did work for me. But back then it hadn't worked for me. This is just recent, right? So I was like, these are paper laid wishes. I love vision boarding. I think it's awesome. But the reality is I was like, I need something practical. I need something I can sink my teeth into. It's got to be tangible. So we did vision boarding. It was this awesome event, but I left there going, and this is right before my mom passed and my buddy Henry passed. I was like, I have to create something. So fast forward, create something for this to work for me. So fast forward to the spring, and then they both passed on, and I was like, well, I got to get out of here. I felt like led to go to Calgary, so I go to Calgary. I cocoon with one of my friends for 2 months, and I'm like, listen, I need to take myself through some kind of program because I got to restart my life. And that's what this ended up being. Is I initially was going to call it Restart, but no, the Gold Within was much more, because it's reconnecting you with what's already in here. It's not something out there. That's the most amazing thing I've learned in this last 4 years is what we're trying to achieve is not about going out there and trying to find happiness or trying to find this or it's not. It's coming back in here. And for me, that's connecting with God and allowing God to connect me back with the things I forgot along the way and heal the things in me that got damaged, because stuff gets damaged in life. And we've all damaged people and they've all damaged us. So it's not like someone's innocent here. We've all done it. But the most important thing is not staying there. And so that's where I was when I created it. I moved out. I said to my friend, I'm like, hey, do you want to try this thing with me? Because I need to do this for me. Are you willing to, be like a little partner with me in terms of and so they said yes. So we dove in kind of like two kids in a schoolyard, in the sandbox of life. And then I saw the results it did in my life. I came back and, in 1 year, in 9 months, actually, I wrote the songs, created all the music album. And then I created 6 music videos and went on a mini tour in 9 months. So that was more than I'd done in 10 years. So, and I was able to overcome some fears by doing this, because there was fears of actually going on stage. Even though I'd sung before on stage, there was a lot of stuff that doing this program helped unearth a lot of the stuff that needed to be dealt with in my life in multiple areas. And of course, as we started this out, you talked about singing and you asked me about, blockages or things to overcome. And it's like, that's the most amazing thing. When you let whatever needs to be dealt with, typically from childhood, when you let that stuff come out, and that's what the Goal Within system helps with. And that's the most amazing thing. As you let that stuff come out, get healed, get addressed, your singing takes off, your songwriting can take off, your music can take off. Like, I have other things. I don't just do music, but I achieved initially what I wanted to. It helped me do it in 9 months. And then I went out to Ontario, back east, to go and in Canada, I don't know where your listeners are, but to go and get feedback from a management company. So I sent all my stuff out there. At the end of my tour, I was in Kelowna. I'd finished the little mini tour, and I went out and I sent all my stuff out to this management company in Kelowna. And this lady, who's the top exec at the company, I thought she was like someone's assistant. I didn't know. I just felt led one day to reach out. So I looked online for the company that managed a certain group that I really respected, and I reached out. I just grabbed one of their emails that was available online. I just shot up my stuff, said, "Hey, this is who I am. This is what I've done. Here's my album. Here's my music videos. I'm untrained. I don't really know what to do next, and so I'd love your input." And I didn't hear anything for about 2 weeks, and then she got back to me, and she said some wonderful things. And she said, "I don't understand how, we haven't heard about you," and blah blah blah. And I was like, "Oh, okay, so maybe I should have contacted her for a reason," because I thought, well, she never got back to me. And so that led to me going out to Ontario to meet them, and then they critiqued me and basically said, gave me homework. They said, "Well, before we can sign you, you got to work on these things." They told me 2 things in my voice. Number one, I never on pitch, Andrew. So I didn't realize my pitch needed the work that it needed. So there's a couple parts in my album still that the pitch, because I don't use auto tune. I refuse to use it. And so so they said, you got to work on your pitch. And then the other thing is just making sure you're flowing through your range a little smoother. So actually, because I don't do music full time, I've been doing business stuff. I've been working on that homework for the last 2.5 years. So I'm prepping to do a hymns album in the next year, just to kind of honor my roots and how I was raised. And that's really on my heart that I should do that. So anyway, I will be doing a new recording. But there's more of the story of staying flexible. And because when they said that, you got to work on your pitch. Oh my gosh. I was like, what do you mean I have to work on my pitch? You got to work on your pitch. No, I didn't say that. But it's kind of like that. Because when someone tells you something, it's like the ego's defense right away is to go, no, I'm wrong. You're right. And if that's one of the things I learned by going through this program is there was a great saying in Kung Fu Panda. I love that kids movie. I used to watch all of them with my daughter when she was young. And it's something about when the cup, a full cup, can have nothing else added to it. And it was something about being smart enough to realize you never know everything. And so always be open to receiving criticism. And so when this lady said this, initially it kind of stung, but I was like, you know what? She managed Andre Bocelli. And I was like, and she was his private pianist. So when she told me this, I was like, you know what? I probably should just suck it up, princess, and receive it. So that led to a massive discovery of my singing. I didn't realize, first of all, how off my pitch sometimes had been. And so I became militant on my pitch. So the last 2 years, what was actually a weakness of mine, because I chose not to go with my ego and try to prove that I know right and you're wrong. I was like, you know what, you're right. And so I realized that my pitch really needed work. And so now my pitch has actually becoming an area of strength and used to be an area of weakness. And that's pretty cool.
That's incredible. And there actually is a visual representation of the Goal Within program behind me. I'm not going to go into specific details, but I will share some of the benefits that I got a little bit later in the show as well. I think you painted a really great picture. You articulated what challenges you were facing, as well as some of the breakthroughs that you've had. Are there any other, because the listeners are going to be at a variety of different stages in their life, are there any other difficulties or challenges that people enter the Goal Within program with?
Oh, yeah. Well, I got some of the people. It's a small group of people that are beta testing it now. It's fully open, but I'm not promoting it. I'm not running traffic to it. I'm not, my funnels are up and all that. And the members area is open and people can access. But one of my friends used it. So she had gotten out of a rough relationship, and she had really dimmed her light. because she was disconnected for years because of the relationship she was in. And she finally was able, so after, no, I met her after, so she'd already left the relationship, but she was struggling to learn to reconnect with her voice. And in all of her friendships and relationships with her family, with her kids, with her friends, she wouldn't actually like tell people where she was at. She was always the one that conveniently listened to everybody. So she used the program to focus on, how do I get bolder in my voice? How do I get no, she's not a singer, but in her voice, right? And she's reconnected with that, and she's strong now, and she's bold, and she's fierce. And another thing she used was doing this in business. And so she applied the principles. She wanted to grow her income. So as she's an employee, and she rose from being an account manager to she's the top exec in the company. So now she's, well over six figures.
Wow.
And she used the program to do that. Another one of my friends, because I invited people I knew to be a part of the beta testing, because I was like, it's safe. I can make all my mistakes with friends. It's not too public right now, right? So she used it, one of my friends, to learn to ask for what she wants in life. She wasn't asking for what she wants because of fear that maybe she's not worthy and she's unlovable or she's not acceptable as she is. I don't know where she got those belief systems, but the cool thing is that she's stronger now and she's bolder now. Yeah, I know you mentioned to me some of the things you've used the Goal Within program, because a lot of it's business, right? You're doing a lot of your focus is on personal growth, development, business stuff, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then I've used it for fitness. So when we went into pandemic mode, the gyms were closed. And
yeah.
I was like, well, I was always scared of being someone that could work out at home because I admired people that did that. But I was like, there's no way I'm going to do that. I need a gym is the tape I was telling myself. I need the machines. I need the weights, blah, blah, blah. And I use a system to discover that I am completely capable of doing my home workouts. So now I exclusively do home workouts. And it didn't take that long for that muscle to grow. I do my running, my sprints at the park, and then I do my workouts at home. And that's another area. I also use it to deal with some emotional eating habits I was having and I was dealing with. So stuff in my face whenever I wanted to avoid feeling certain things in life. So
yeah. I love that you touched on a bunch of benefits and breakthroughs, which was going to be my next question anyway. So I think, it's an opportune moment for me to share some of the benefits that I got. First and foremost is clarity. Some of the questions in this program are just going to direct you to things that are unfinished or things that would really be closely aligned with your ultimate purpose as a human being and the things that you need to accomplish and create in your life. So for me, that it gave me a lot of instant clarity on the things that were matterful to me. And I think a lot of people are going to get that benefit too. The next thing was just because I was clear on the things that I was meant to do and accomplish, I got a better sense of what my impact and the difference I want to make in the world is. And that leads right into the next benefit, which is if you know your internal reason for being, you have a much better sense of your brand. And that's really how I like to talk about branding. Branding, you can talk about colors and logos and aesthetics and all that kind of stuff, but it really does come down to what difference do you want to make in the world? What is your purpose? What is the impact you want to make? And once musicians understand that, I think their brand is going to be so much more powerful than just like how they look on stage. And I feel like that's another really big benefit that people can get from the Goal Within program.
I love what you said there, Andrew, because Simon Sinek talks about your why, defining your why. When I saw that video, 10 years ago it came out, it changed my life. It began the process of changing my life in the sense that I began realizing that people don't buy from people. People buy from people whom they align with, even as a singer. So you got to say what you stand for. And here's something I just learned today. Every war in the world has started from rights being violated. if my information is correct. And so you don't stand on rights. What you stand for is social issues. So social issues bleed into culture, they bleed into business. So when singers or anyone takes a stand on a social issue, not on a human's rights issue, but a social issue, you become someone that people can come along say and go, you know what? I also believe that. So Simon Sinek talks about doing your why video and your why statements. Like something I believe is that I believe every person on this planet comes loaded with gifts and abilities, much of which get covered over through the traumas and circumstances we go through. And until they get reconnected with that, they walk around in partial aimlessness, and their candle is barely lit. It's not a flame. It's like flickering. So I also believe that people, when they reconnect with those things, they can become absolutely alive. I've seen it done in my life, and they can overcome tragedies and traumas, people dying, breakups, losing marriages, losing businesses, having to start over, losing whatever, being swindled, whatever. Because I believe that those internal gifts are the thing that keeps the pilot light lit. And when we actually start going after and reconnecting with those things, we become someone that tragedy cannot squish. Our fire cannot be quenched, because stuff is going to happen. But I believe it's the way we're designed. I believe that the way we've been designed is so that everything you need has already been put inside of you. But we were born into a world where we're taught to disconnect. We're taught to not listen to this. We're taught to not follow this. Dear God, don't follow this, because you'll get hurt. And then what happens is we do get hurt in life. Stuff happens, traumas happen. We are hurt. And so we go, well, dragons are real. Dragons are real. But if dragons are real, so are warriors. And I believe that we are able to become the warriors we were meant to be, because it's impossible to thirst for something unless it exists. If I am thirsty, that means somewhere on this planet, water exists. It's impossible to thirst for something that doesn't exist. So if you crave to be the person that can rise up and be valiant in your own life and slay the dragons that you have to learn to slay, because no one else is going to slay them for you. If you crave that, that exists.
Adding to something that you said there, and I think this is a huge part of building your tribe or following or whatever you want to call it, is you never know what people are going to connect with. I think Dan Kennedy, marketing expert, said this in his book. I don't remember the exact examples he gave, but he says, I always mention the fact that I had a speech impediment. I always mention the fact that I'm married. I always mention the fact that I used to own this car and it's my favorite car. I always mention the fact that I love Disney or whatever it is. And you don't know which part of that people are ultimately going to connect with. It's like, I wasn't listening to you until 5 minutes ago when you mentioned so-and-so. And that happens to a lot of people. That's why I always mention I grew up in Japan. It's a huge part of my upbringing and my identity and who I've become. And that's really crucial to know.
Connecting points, because people assign meaning to connecting points. Oh, you also watch The Mandalorian? I watch The Mandalorian. Well, if you value The Mandalorian or whatever show it is, or the new Cobra Kai, that means you value what I value. And if we value the same thing, I'm going to listen to you and I might buy something for you, or I might buy your album, or I might come and watch your show because, dude, I just feel we got this connection.
Exactly. And I think you left us with a really great thought, which is that you can't thirst for something that doesn't exist. I think that's something that everyone's going to want to sit with and think on and ponder and reflect to get a better sense of what they can create in their own lives. And it is available through the Goal Within program as well.
Imagination is something that really has come back to me. We were born as kids. We all remember, well, hopefully we all remember what it's like to imagine and just to make believe. I used to play army with my brother and my the neighborhood kids. I grew up in there was always a cul-de-sac where I lived, the different houses we lived in. We would play bike tag. We would play army. We would play Red Rover. We play street hockey. I always had an active imagination. I actually would, out of plywood, cut out guns like M16s and all these different kind of guns and Uzis, just because, the creativity. I would play Army Men. Anyway, something I've noticed that the Goal Within helps me with is it's helped me reconnect with my imagination. So since then, I've written better songs because my imagination. If you can imagine the chord progression, if you can imagine yourself singing something, you can do it. When I started my singing journey at 15, I heard this Southern Gospel Quartet in this church choir practice I was in. And I heard this super low bass. I don't know. I'm a tenor singer. And I heard this high tenor, this other was called a lead singer, a baritone, and a bass. I heard these guys singing this gospel music. I got bit with the bug of singing. And I thirsted. I was like, one day I'm going to be able to sing a high, full voice C5, high tenor C. And I at the time I could sing like an F. Like I didn't have a very big vocal range. And I was like, I saw with my imagination that it could happen. And I've used this for different things in life. And fast forward, I'm 45, so almost 30 years later. This fall, 30 years later, I've more than surpassed that. But at the time, I couldn't. So if you can visualize the song, the chord progression, the tour, the album cover, the music video, the business, the finances you want from your singing career, the duet, that guitar riff or the keyboard, the way you play, whatever it is, if you can visualize it, is because it exists in a realm that only your imagination can unlock. And so we have to give ourselves the freedom to reconnect, not just with our child, the inner child, but to reconnect with the things that were put in here, like probably before birth.
I remember that when I was a child, I used to imagine living in a 100-story tower with an entire floor dedicated to a pool and an entire floor dedicated to a basketball court and owning multiple cars and all this kind of stuff. Almost like Donald Trump, I guess. But I didn't know who Donald Trump was as a kid. But that's just where my imagination went. And if I was to take it for granted once more that all of that is possible, what a life. What a life I would live.
Yeah. If water is what you thirst, it's because water exists.
Yeah. Well, that is a fantastic note to end on, but I will ask this. Is there anything else I should have touched on?
I just want to encourage your listeners that regardless if they click on the link, they'll get a free copy of the program, The Gold Within. There's a paid version if you want me to teach it to you on videos, and there's a private Facebook and Telegram group. And I wrote a couple other books, and there's audio books in there you'll get as a bundle if you want to do the paid version, but you get the free version at least. I would encourage you, guys and girls, take the free version. And I want to light the fire in you that things are possible. And no matter what you've been through, and there's some real traumas in life and tragedies, no doubt. When that stuff happened to me, it leveled me. It's serious. Pain is serious. And this life is temporary. Mm-hmm. So I want to encourage you to begin to ask questions you've not asked before and begin to turn over rocks you've not turned over before. When we start the journey of being willing to be open to trying things we've never done, information that we've never had before becomes possible, that it could land in our lap. The possibility exists. And it's so easy to get stuck in our little ruts, in anything, in our physical life, in our diet, in our singing, in our songwriting, in business, even where we drive, the habitual things we do. And sometimes that works well for us. But when we're not experiencing what we want to experience in life, it's time to ask better questions, different questions. It's time to start looking in places we've never looked before. And if you dream of doing something and you've dreamed of this for a while and it's real and you taste it, touch it, it's for a reason. It's not in you because it's just some coincidence. It's in you. The things we crave are in us for a reason. The eagle has to fly. Why does it want to fly? Why does it want to flap its wings? It's because it's supposed to. So whatever is in you, the thing you cannot shake, is there because it's been put there. And desire reveals design.
The link for the Goal Within program is just down there. So it's musicentrepreneurhq.com/the Gold Within. I managed to set up a quick link so you don't have to enter any crazy characters in your browser. That's all you have to put in there. It's just musicentrepreneurhq.com/the Goal Within. I thank you everyone for tuning in today. Hope you got lots out of this. Anybody who happens to be watching after the fact, thank you as well. Today was a multi-stream to Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. Thank you so much to Amos Bracewell for coming on to talk about it. Maybe we'll even have him on again in the future. But thanks again, Amos.
My pleasure, Andrew. Thank you for having me, and thanks for anyone that tuned in. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks so much. We're going to be ending this stream. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
So people sometimes ask me, David, I've got your books, I've got your courses. Do you have anything else? Well, we just launched a new program called Elite Players All Access Pass. And what this should really be called is Digital Marketing, Mindset, and the Business of Music Academy for musicians, because that's what it is. We've set up a new platform where you can access courses, eBooks, members-only audios, a community forum, personalized coaching, archived trainings, and more. This is a premium program that carries a premium price, so it's not for everyone, but if you're ready to learn more, head on over to musicentrepreneurhq.com/elite. That's ELITE. I look forward to seeing you on the inside. This has been episode 240 of the New Music Industry Podcast. I'm David Angeweep, and I look forward to seeing you on the stages of the world.
Thank you for listening. Music in this episode was brought to you by Brian Young. Wherever you're listening to this right now, please consider leaving a 5-star review and comment to help us get the word out about the podcast.